Okay, so it's a 3-part documentary. Now, involved in this docuseries, you have there's people from both sides. So on the legal,
we just talk about how much we hate the doc. I hated the doc.
Yeah, I just hated the doc because I felt like they didn't fairly portray both sides. Like there was too much leaning on like the allegations, and he did this, he did that, and not enough on the other side. If we were going to explore it, I wanted it to be heavily on both sides and allow me to choose.
He's not allowed to defend himself, so it's weird. It's also stories, and you know, people tell the truth in stories sometimes, and sometimes they don't. And you don't know.
Why do we need a documentary in the middle of this that goes back 21 years in a case where he was completely exonerated?
When Netflix released Michael Jackson's The Verdict documentary, they promised viewers something pretty simple. Right there in the trailer, they say, guilty or innocent, you decide. So that gave me the impression that it would be an unbiased take on the 2005 trial of Michael Jackson.
Michael said, how do innocent people leave the courthouse? They let the whole world see them.
Not another documentary telling me what to think. Not another documentary clearly picking a side. Just the evidence and enough information for me to decide for myself.
It's very moving testimony. It really got to me.
Now, before we go any further, I want to make something clear. This isn't another video arguing whether Michael Jackson was innocent or guilty.
The jury deliberated for 8 days. They had seen almost 5 months of testimony. They had been in trial 5 days a week during those 5 months. They deliberated 8 days, and they came back with not guilty on every felony count and every misdemeanor count.
And it's not going to be a play-by-play review of the documentary either.
I think it is the same hatchet job that we have seen in other documentaries where people who have no clue, no understanding, no knowledge of the facts of the case come in and cry crocodile tears.
Instead, it's about all the questions I had after seeing the documentary. And when I researched those questions, the information I found had me questioning the reason for the documentary in the first place. Because if this documentary is supposed to present both sides fairly, then why did I keep finding important details that wasn't included? And also, why didn't they include it? I'm not talking about tiny details either. I'm talking about information connected to some of the documentary's biggest claims. Information that was publicly available. And the deeper I looked is the more I started to see a pattern, like fabricated bank statements, an alleged videotape that was never produced, magazines that were found but never entered into evidence, and important context that were left out about Michael Jackson's body search that was for me one of the biggest moments in the documentary. That's when I started wondering, did Netflix actually deliver the balanced documentary it promised? And that question led me to wonder something even bigger. Let's talk about it. So the reason I even watched this documentary in the first place is because I just seen the Michael Jackson biopic, and like a lot of people, it left me wanting more. So I started watching old Michael Jackson interviews, music videos. I even started practicing my moonwalk again. So when Netflix released Michael Jackson's The Verdict, I was like, hell yeah. I knew some details about the trial, but there was a lot I didn't know. So when the trailer promised an inside look at the trial using court records, first-hand testimony, and the evidence shown in court, I figured it would at least be an interesting watch. So I locked in. And overall, I did find it interesting. I learned a lot of information about the case that I didn't know. For example, I didn't know the prosecution basically had little to no evidence. All they mainly had was witness testimony. The documentary also introduced me to people and parts of the case that I wanted to learn more about. So naturally, after watching the documentary, I jumped on the internet and started checking some stuff out. And that's when I noticed something. There was a lot of public information about important context that the documentary left out. The first thing that caught my attention was Martin Bashir. If you don't know who Martin Bashir is, he's the journalist who interviewed Michael Jackson for the documentary called Living with Michael Jackson. That interview became a huge turning point because after it aired, it created a lot of public backlash, which led to the investigation that eventually led to Michael Jackson's trial in 2005.
I made the documentary. There was a small part of that which contained a controversy concerning his relationship with other young people.
The documentary explains why Michael trusted Bashir. It tells us Bashir was the same journalist who interviewed Princess Diana, and because Michael admired Princess Diana, he trusted Bashir too. But while I was looking into Bashir, I found something that surprised me. Years after the Michael Jackson interview, the BBC looked into how Bashir got his interview with Princess Diana. And according to what they found, Bashir used fake bank statements to convince Princess Diana that people close to her were being paid to spy on her. And it turned out those documents were false. And the BBC later said they should have never been used.
It's one of the worst chapters in the BBC's history, in my view. Says the rogue reporter who gets one of the world's greatest scoops by means of deception.
Martin Bashir met Princess Diana through her brother, Earl Spencer. Mr. Bashir showed him fake bank statements, falsely suggesting people close to Princess Diana were being paid to spy on her in order to secure an interview.
So because of that, the Princess Diana interview became one of the biggest controversies in Martin Bashir's career. And all I'm saying is, if the Netflix documentary is going to spend time explaining why Michael trusted Martin Bashir, I think it's also fair to tell viewers about the controversy surrounding the Princess Diana interview, since that was the reason he earned Michael's trust in the first place. I mean, that's pretty important context. If viewers are being asked to trust Bashir's credibility, then shouldn't they know that his credibility has been taken out back and shot in the head because of that controversy? So for me, that was the first time I started giving this documentary the side eye. The next person that caught my attention was Diane Dimond. When I watched the documentary, I noticed she appears a lot. Diane Dimond is a journalist who covered Michael Jackson for years, especially when it came to the allegations against him. So when the documentary uses her as one of the main voices talking about the case, that matters. But while I was looking into her reporting, I found a story the documentary never mentioned. Back in the 1990s, Diane Dimond reported an alleged videotape that was supposed to show Michael Jackson being inappropriate with a young boy. That claim came from a man named Victor Gutierrez. Gutierrez claimed he had seen the tape, and Diane reported the story.
It was either going to be a superstar being falsely accused, or it was going to be a superstar perhaps guilty of one of the most heinous crimes we know. So either way, I couldn't lose.
The problem is, the tape was never produced. Nobody showed it, nobody found it. It was never entered as evidence, and the public never saw proof that this tape actually existed. Michael Jackson later sued Diane for defamation over that reporting, and Gutierrez was also sued by Michael Jackson, and the court later ruled against Gutierrez as he was ordered to pay Michael Jackson millions of dollars.
It may be the most famous star in the world, he's certainly one of the richest, and that, say the lawyers, makes Michael Jackson a prime target for lawsuits. But now Michael's lawyers say the star is tired of getting squeezed, and he is fighting back. A jury has awarded Michael Jackson a whopping $2.7 million for a defamation lawsuit he filed against freelance writer Victor Gutierrez.
This guy made it up out of thin air, maliciously to hurt Michael, and he told anybody and everybody who would listen. When it came time to prove it in this court, he couldn't prove it.
So when the documentary includes Diane Dimond as a major voice, I think that background matters, because viewers are hearing her talk about the 2005 trial, but they're not being told everything about her controversial history with Michael. The next story that caught my attention involved Vincent Amen and Frank Cascio. And before I get into it, let me explain who they are. Vincent was one of Michael Jackson's former employees, and Frank Cascio wasn't just another employee, he was someone who had been close to Michael Jackson for years. He grew up around Michael, spent a lot of time at Neverland, and was considered part of Michael's inner circle. In the documentary, Vincent says that after Michael Jackson was arrested in 2003, Frank Cascio gave him a bag containing items from Neverland. One of the things inside that bag was a nudist magazine. He says the magazine had some ads for videos featuring children, and that some of those listings had been circled. The documentary shows that story as one of the biggest reasons Vincent changed the way he looked at Michael. But something was bugging me. For starters, Frank Cascio never appears in the documentary to confirm Vincent's version of the story, so the audience only hears one side of that story. We are led to believe Michael himself circled these magazine listings, and we are never told that there was no forensic evidence identifying who actually circled those listings. So again, I ask, if Netflix wanted viewers to make an informed decision, then why leave out such important information? We're supposed to just take this guy at his word, when Michael's fingerprints were not even on those magazines, and with no evidence supporting that it even came from Neverland in the first place. as I kept looking, I found several examples of things that were left out, like the fact that Chris Tucker testified in court saying that the Arvizo family that this case was about was described as cunning and that Chris Tucker warned Michael about them.
This happened just moments ago. The defense's final witness, actor Chris Tucker. And Tucker described his relationship with the accuser and his family. He said more than once the accuser asked him for money, and Tucker said the more time he spent with the accuser and his family, he became more suspicious of them. And at one point, Tucker said he even warned Michael Jackson about the accuser and his family.
Apparently, this family has a history of fraud, which the documentary did touch on, but they conveniently left out the part that George Lopez also had a run-in with this same family and had his suspicions about them as well.
Testifying earlier today, comedian George Lopez arriving here at the courthouse. Lopez called as a prosecution witness. He testified today that he met the accuser in 1999 at a comedy camp and he befriended the young boy. He said that when the accuser fell sick with cancer, he did go to see him at the hospital, and Lopez said that it was actually the boy's father who repeatedly asked for mother and not the boy's asked for money rather. And not the boy's mother.
But I think the biggest example is what I found out about Michael Jackson's body search. See, back in 1993, a kid named Jordan Chandler accused Michael Jackson of some inappropriate things. He described markings on Michael Jackson's body to the police, so the investigators got a search warrant requiring Michael to submit to a nude body examination. They photographed Michael's body so they could compare it to Jordan Chandler's description.
They served a search warrant on me, which allowed them to view and photograph my body, including my penis, my buttocks, my lower torso, thighs, and any other area that they wanted.
The documentary presents this as one of the strongest pieces of evidence against Michael Jackson. They presented the prosecution's perspective that Jordan Chandler's description and physical drawings of Michael's body match what the police found. And I'm not gonna lie, that part of the documentary really shocked me. That's why I had to look it up for myself. And while I was looking into it, I found that news reports at the time quoted law enforcement sources saying the descriptions did not conclusively match. Plus, there was publicly reported information showing there was also disagreements over the body description evidence itself.
If Jordy Chandler had an accurate description, if he was right with whatever he said, if he was spot on 100%, they would have hooked up Michael right there on the spot.
I mean, come on, Netflix, cut it out. I think viewers deserve to hear the publicly reported information that showed the issue wasn't as straightforward as the documentary makes it seem. So after finding out all this info, I realized that overall this documentary leaned heavily on the accusations about Michael, but they conveniently left out a lot of context that would support his innocence.
The media tends to want to glorify salacious allegations. They don't like to spend time on the counter-argument. So the media and this documentary spends time on very dramatic, disturbing, salacious allegations and doesn't do justice to the problems with the prosecution's witnesses and the prosecution's case.
Netflix did not deliver a balanced documentary like they promised. I watched it because I thought it would help me understand the 2005 trial better, and in a lot of ways it did, but the information they left out would have been good to know. Because if you're gonna leave all that stuff out, then how can you present this documentary as if you're being fair? The Michael Jackson biopic had just brought his story back into the spotlight. Millions of people who hadn't thought about Michael Jackson in years were suddenly talking about him again. Then all of a sudden, Netflix released this documentary revisiting the most controversial moment of his life. Are we expected to believe it's just a coincidence? I'm serious. After finding out all the stuff I did, I really don't know what was the point of this documentary. Maybe they simply wanted to make some money, or maybe there was another reason entirely. I honestly don't know. What I do know is this: whether you believe Michael Jackson was guilty or innocent, if a documentary promises viewers guilty or innocent, you decide, then I think viewers deserve as much relevant context as possible before making that decision. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you made it to the end of the video, I really appreciate it. And if you like this video, then you might also enjoy my video about the Quiet on the Set documentary and how what I learned ruined my childhood shows. And as always, if you want to support the channel, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.